So Contender Series week number 2 wrapped up quite a few hours ago, and now I am going to be doing my recap for the card. I know I'm a few hours late on this one, but I did have a pretty busy day because these fights take place during the day, so I had to go to university after the fights took place, and I just got back. It is now 11:30 p.m., but I wanted to talk about all of the winners, the losers, the fighters that didn't get the contract, and also just at the end a very quick preview on where I'm at the week number 3 card as well. I haven't finished my tape study for that, but I'm just going to give you guys my early leans, and these picks could change because this is going to be, in my opinion, the hardest card to predict fights on so far. But week number 2 went 5-0. All the favourites went 5-0, so kind of just was a favourite heavy card, of course. Now, let's start off with the first one. Cody Haddon defeated Billy Brand in round number 1. That is 2 cards now that I have said that I think a fight goes to decision, that it has finished in the first round. I thought that Antoine Ho versus Lorna Kavanagh was going to be a 15-minute war. Lorna Kavanagh won in the first round. Cody Haddon beat Billy Brand in the first round, and I thought he was going to win a decision. So when I say that I think a fight's going the distance, I think just ignore it, potentially. I don't know, but Cody Haddon looked good, man. I do still think that he looked quite small for the weight class. I think Billy Brand looked small for 135 pounds, and Cody Haddon is even smaller than him. So I think that maybe just as Cody Haddon, I guess, just gets a bit older, puts on a little bit more weight, he'll fill out a little bit more for 135 pounds, but he makes up for that lack of size with just technique, really, and speed. He is fast, man, and Billy Brand is no joke on the feet. He's a very good Muay Thai fighter, and Cody Haddon was able to box him up and also land some pretty solid kicks. He, of course, knocked down Billy Brand pretty badly. The ref could have honestly stopped it there and then, I'll be honest, but he let it go on, and then Cody Haddon ended up getting that rear naked choke, showcased grappling, showcased wrestling, and showcased striking. I did pick Cody Haddon based on the fact that I thought he was going to mix in the wrestling more effectively than Billy Brand, and that's what happened. So pretty happy with the pick. First round finish when I thought he was going to go the distance, but it is what it is. Torres Finney defeated Cam Ralston. The first thing I want to say before I talk about Torres Finney is that Cam Ralston has made drastic improvements in his time away from MMA. If you guys do just look at his Tapology page as it is, he hadn't fought since 2022, so he was coming back after about 2 years away from MMA. He had been kickboxing, and obviously you're going to be working on your takedown defense and your wrestling when you're at CKB and you're an MMA fighter. But I did worry quite a bit about that time away. I just didn't know how he was going to look. I can confirm Cam Rustin looked good. I thought his takedown defense looked good. And if he wasn't fighting a dominant wrestler like Torres Finney, there probably is a few other middleweights that he could have potentially beaten on the show. But I think with Cam Rustin, I think you see him next year. I thought his striking looked pretty decent. And talking about decent striking, whenever the fight was on the feet against Torres Finney, he was able to land with ease. I feel like he was a little bit too worried about the takedown because there was moments where he was landing. And I do think that is where Torres Finney's kind of weakest point of his game is in the striking defense. He took on, in my opinion, a very good striker, a professional kickboxer, multiple-time king in the ring champion. Like, no joke on the feet in Cam Ralston, but Cam Ralston was landing at will on Torres Finney without any issues at all. Torres Finney just didn't really have any answer to the defense on the strikes, and he of course did win with the wrestling. I thought he looked pretty decent at the wrestling, but I do think that's something that now I think he needs to just work on in his game, is just have a little bit more defensive striking. You know, it doesn't need to be world-class striking, but you do kind of need to at least be able to hang on the feet with these guys, and I do understand he's going to struggle to do that standing at 5'8" against a significantly taller opponent, but yeah, with Torres Finney, I don't disagree with him not getting signed because I didn't think it was the most exciting performance. He did at least show pretty decent cardio, but, you know, I just don't necessarily think right now, with that striking defense, that he could, like, you know, just kind of really make a push in the middleweight division right now, but he's only 25 years old. I think the potential is there for sure. I thought Dana White was very harsh on him, but I think that Torres Finney, man, like, I really would love to see him fight 2 more times on the regional scene and then come back. You know, I am a big fan of Torres Finney. I'm going to be a big supporter of him, but I do personally somewhat agree with Dana White and just say, hey, like, I think there is still some holes in his game that might need to be patched up. And now we can move up to Cortavius Romius fighting against Michael Imperato. I did find it a little bit odd that Dana White said that Cortavius Romius is one of the best athletes he's ever seen. Okay, I guess. I mean, That I also find it a little bit odd as well that he didn't sign Torres Finney and he did sign Cortavius Romius, because I do think that Cortavius Romius did in his own right show a lot of holes in his game. Now, Michael Imperato is not the most dangerous striker in the world, and he was able to land very flush on Romius on multiple occasions in that fight, and Romius even was scarcing out a little bit as well. Now, I think that Romius is going to be very fun in the UFC. I don't know if I can predict for him to go super, super far. I didn't really consider Michael Imperato to be a massive bantamweight either. And Romius stands at 5'4" and he looks tiny against them. So maybe Romius could make 125, but I think that's pushing it, because if you actually look at him, he has got a lot of muscle on him, and I don't know if he could make 125. But yeah, I do kind of wonder with Warrant Romius how he's going to go, because you're putting him in there with a loaded division. Men's 135 pounds is a loaded division with some of the best fighters in the entire UFC there. So I don't know how I feel about Romius, I think that someone even like Chad Anhalaga could give him a very tough test. So we'll kind of see how that goes. But moving up to Rizvan Kuniev, kind of on the opposite scale of the spectrum, I think that Rizvan Kuniev is very good, and I think that he is actually potentially a heavyweight that we could see make a run and make an impact, a splash, pretty soon, because he's good. Now, I do want to say this one thing. The guy that fought in the PFL and the guy that fought Hugo Cunha do have completely different physiques, and I probably would put that down to a lot of things going on there, but even though Kuniev did look significantly less in shape than he did against Renan Ferreira, he did still showcase pretty good skills. Now, was the fight pretty boring until the finish? I will say yes, it kind of was. And to be fair, if he didn't get that finish, in general, if he didn't get a finish in general, he probably could have got snubbed, even though he does have clear talent and obvious talent. Hugo Cunha just kind of did what Hugo Cunha does, and it was nothing, really, to be honest. And Kuniev was clinching, and then he got the knee, and that was the fight, really. And then we move up to Andreas Gustafsson versus Pat Pitlick. I was very nervous about this pick. I was not confident in this pick whatsoever. Of course, I did end up picking Gustafsson. I thought that he was just going to bomb away and just not get KO'd by Pat Pitlick. And that's kind of what happened, because Pat Pitlick, you cannot ignore the fact that he was landing some very clean shots on Andreas Gustafsson. But Andreas Gustafsson just kind of showcases an absolutely insane chin once again. You watch this guy, Andreas Gustafsson's fights, his chin is ridiculous, man. Like, he watch any of his fights really that go a decent amount of time, and he just doesn't get KO'd. I mean, he's never been KO'd yet. Pat Pitlick was landing some clean strikes on him as well that probably could KO other opponents, and he just ate them. He just kept going forward. He did attempt a lot more takedowns than I personally expected. Now, I do understand that Gustafsson clinches a lot in his game. He has a Greco-Roman background. But if you actually do watch a lot of his recent fights, he's just not wrestling. And he wrestled against Pat Pitlick. And I like that, because it tells me that he was obviously watching tape on Pat Pitlick, recognized the danger on the feet, and kind of him and his team devised a plan to wrestle. And I don't mind it. Now, he did get a lot of takedowns defended. Kind of hard to say how good Pat Pitlick's defense is, takedown defenses in general, because, I haven't really seen him defend that many takedowns before, I'll be honest. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Andreas Gustafsson goes in the UFC. I think he's going to be a very fun guy, but he's not like a guy like Carlos Prates, which I can immediately recognize as someone that can make a splash. But I think he's good. I think out of the guys that are on the show right now, the guy that can make the immediate impact in the division is Rizvan Kuniev, in my opinion. I think that he definitely could kind of push to the top 20 of the UFC heavyweights. He's beaten Renan Ferreira, who's fighting Francis Ngannou, by the way. And then I think Cody Haddon, over time, if he gets the right matchups and they build him up slowly, he can go pretty far as well, I think. And Cortavius Romius and Andreas Gustafsson are going to be so fun in the UFC. They're going to be fight of the night contender fighters for sure. Now, quickly to get into week number 3, to put it lightly, I am nervous about this card a lot. I don't actually have really any locked-in picks, like high-confidence picks, to be honest with you. And to talk about the main event, I don't love the main event. To be honest with you, I think that there probably is a more exciting fight on this card that could be the main event in Wellmaker versus Brumhold, but Puliev versus Anderson, it's a tough one to pick. I'll be honest, both guys are well-rounded. I think that Puliev's wrestling is like slightly better and his grappling is slightly better, and I think that's where I'm going to lean, but I still haven't finished my tape study for that. The way that I do the tape study, of course, by the way, for Contender Series, is the fights get announced, I watch all the fighters, and then I just kind of leave it so I have some information on them, and then I do the tape study for the actual individual matchup. So I know what these guys do. Puliev and Anderson are both all well-rounded, but I think Puliev's wrestling is slightly better. That's my lean. Michael Oswell versus Bogdan Grad. When this fight was immediately announced, I loved Oswell, and then I watched a little bit more tape on Oswell, and he is a lot less aggressive than I remember him being. And I think to beat someone like Bogdan Grad, you actually have to have quite a bit of aggression. Now, I do worry about Bogdan Grad somewhat because I think he does have a questionable chin, getting KO'd by Tom Nolan like that. But you can't really base it on that as well. He has been pieced up as well and had very, very tough fights, I should say, against much lesser competition, I'll say as well. I think it's this guy here, Tudor Domenji, gave him a lot of trouble on the feet before he got that finish. And, yeah, but he does have pretty decent wrestling, and maybe that's how he can beat Oswell. Right now, I'm still going to lean Oswell, but I might pick Grad, I'll be honest with you. The next one... Oh, sorry, guys, that must have been really loud. Just knocked the mic. I'm going to pick Tulio. I do want to say this, though. Mateo Duclos could just knock him out. The thing about Mateus Duclos is that I didn't think that he looked like that great when I watched his tape, but I did recognize that he does have an insane amount of power. And I do think that Marco Tulio is... This is a very harsh word, but I think he might be a little bit overrated just because I think that people rate his performance against Yusri Belgari way higher than I think that they personally should. Because he fought a injured Belgari, a sick Belgari, and he didn't look that great doing it. He does have good grappling, though. I think that's how he wins the fight. I think that on the feet, though, he probably still is a little bit better than Duclos. But Duclos, I'm going to say it, he's got crazy power, man. It'll be interesting. And now we have Malcolm Wellmaker versus Bramhold. Bramhold, I would say, is a very, very high-volume striker. Wellmaker is a lot more technical. Yeah, technical, I guess, but more like well-placed, a little bit low volume, but a little bit more of a grappler. And people have been hitting me up about Bramhold. Bramhold's got fans. People that watch my channel love Bramhold, and I'm going to feel bad about doing it. But I think I am going to side with Wildmaker. Not locked in on that one, though. I don't like this card for picks. I'm very nervous about this one. And then Jack Duffy's fight against Nick Piccinini. This fight was literally announced today. And it's the third change in opponents for Jack Duffy. He was originally meant to fight Mitch Raposo, and then he was going to fight Jose Ochoa. And if you ask me, I think that Jose Ochoa was actually a much more difficult MMA-style matchup than what Nick Piccinini is going to do, because Nick Piccinini is a very, very good wrestler, but I think that he's, in general, like a little bit less dangerous than Ochoa, who's like a shoot box guy who's going to come out there just high volume, all this and that. I think Ochoa actually has a different fight booked as well, I think. But yeah, anyway, Nick Piccinini versus Jack Duffy. Piccinini's like a multiple-time D1 college champion, I think. A very good wrestling, you can kind of recognize that. And Jack Duffy is a grappler as well. So it's going to be a little bit of a grappler versus wrestler matchup. And I think I'm going to side with Piccinini, but not locking that in. 4-minute breakdown. Okay, that was a lot slower than I thought it was going to be. I wanted to just kind of do it quickly. But that's it. That's how I'm feeling about week number 3. Not very good. I'm going to finish off the tape study tomorrow. Hopefully that increases my confidence. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.